In today's video, I want to talk to you about the occult knowledge of the darkness or the void. And this would also be the womb of the feminine entity that we all live within in this universe. So all the hidden occult knowledge was always honoring the mother. So if you look back at the oldest statues that were ever created on Earth, they were statues of a female deity. And it was mother and child. And it was Isis and Horus. And then it became Mary and the child, or Madonna and the child. So the oldest statues was always this knowledge. And even after Christianity came in and switched everything from a male to a male god, and very dominating and punishing, and almost, in the Old Testament at least, psychopathic. It was a way of control over the masses. We've kind of, society has changed a lot. Was it an experiment? I've talked about past matrices where maybe we allowed this experiment to come in, and I don't think it turned out very well, but maybe we needed it for our growth and evolution. But the occultists always knew that there was a veneration of the mother. So these are all the secret organizations that everyone demonizes and everything like that. They honored Mary and Mary Magdalene, and they were behind building all the Gothic churches in Europe. And even in when I've been to Mexico, the really Gothic churches, there's a whole system to that. And there's more churches dedicated to Mary than any other male saint or even Jesus. So it's amazing how many churches were built to the mother, because I think that the church was trying to convert pagans, and they knew that they honored the mother, and that the universe and earth was seen as a female deity, a nurturing female deity. And so they had to accommodate that to get them into the church. And once they were in the church, that's when the indoctrination started happening. But if you look over Europe, and even where I've been in Mexico, there's not even like a comparison to how many churches are dedicated to Guadalupe or Mary. I hardly ever see one that's dedicated to Jesus. In fact, I don't know if I've ever been one where it was called like the Church of Jesus. It's always Mary. Okay, so there's a lot of sacred geometry that was built into these Gothic cathedrals. And these Masons were building these churches in accordance with sacred geometry on top of pagan nodes that were worshiping the mother. And they were building these churches in a certain way right under the nose of the church. Okay, so these old Gothic cathedrals are very, very sacred. And I get very emotional when I go into really old Catholic churches that are dedicated to Mary, and I can feel the feminine energy there. So again, this is just occult knowledge. This is who they venerate. They had to go underground. This is a lot of, like, in witchcraft, there's the goddess. And I've never experienced so much power when working with a deity than I do with Mary. And I wasn't raised Catholic or anything. I would go to the other world, or even the astral realm, and there's a lot of us trying to clean up that area. and I would banish, and just out of my mouth came her name. And so when I came back to my body, I'm like, why did I use her name? So I know I'm a little wiser when I'm in the other world, because I'm more connected to that higher knowledge. And so then I started working with that energy afterwards, and it's been amazing and healing and very powerful. So when I was first initiated from the other world, I've talked about this before, I was thrown into complete and utter darkness, the void, which people call it. And again, I didn't know what was happening to me. And all I knew is when this was happening, I was in so much fear because, again, I wasn't spiritual. I wasn't doing any type of yoga, anything. I was just living my life. Okay. So on a soul level, I have this contract, apparently. And so I was pulled back to this void of nothingness. And it's just complete neutrality. There's really nothing there. It's heavy energy. It's all like potential. But what happened was and then later I found out this is an actual place that you can go to when you are being initiated. So when you go back to this womb, so this was the mother's womb, okay? Some people go there and they're like, oh, it's loving and whatever. I didn't feel that. I just felt neutrality there. So what it is when you go to this void, you're completely out of all constructs. Okay. So what it does, it's kind of like a hard drive wipe. So all your programming, everything that you thought you were, everything you thought the universe or how the world worked, it gets wiped. And that's why I had this feeling when I was getting pulled out of my body and thrown in there was a feeling of death. And I just said, I'm dying. Oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. And I panicked. But it was the death of all my programming and false belief systems and everything like that. So that is going back to the womb. So in occult sciences and knowledge, it was the darkness that was the womb there. And she gave birth to the light. Okay. And that's her child. And this is where we get the Immaculate Conception. There's so many stories in every culture about this virgin giving birth. Okay. It's not just Catholicism look at any ancient culture. It's always a virgin giving birth, or it's an Immaculate Conception. Okay. So this is what it means, is that she gave birth to the light or matter or these constructs or the matrices. Okay. So it was a virgin birth. It was an Immaculate Conception and birth. Okay. This is what the true meaning of all that is. And this is why we see so many old statues of the mother with the child giving birth to that. Okay. So it's a big mindset that we have to change, and it's been corrupted. I mean, even in Genesis, it shows first there was darkness, and God said, let there be light. So it's the same concept. They just changed it to where you think God is a male deity. And if you look, as above, so below, if you look here, like nothing gives birth except through the female. And it's just how the universe works. And so some of you may have a problem with that, accepting that it is a female universe that we live within. And on this path, you're going to have to surrender to the feminine. And I don't mean feminine incarnations. It's the feminine energy that contains everything, our unconscious, your soul, your immortal soul is feminine from this void. And everything else is a construct. It would be considered masculine energy, and it's temporary. So On this path, you will come to realize that. But I know that the times we're living in now, it's probably very hard for male embodied people to surrender to a feminine goddess. But on this path, that is part of it. And everything opens up to you when you work with this energy. Let me see if I have any other notes here. Yeah, it's when I was there, it was just nothingness. Okay, but that's all potentials we create from that nothingness. So we can get to that. When I went through this process and I felt like I went through some kind of purification process and deprogramming, they called it tabula rasa. And I was like, what does that mean? So I had to look it up, and it means a blank slate. So you have to get to the blank slate and then you reprogram yourself. Right now, everyone is programmed first from their parents, religion, society, social media, news, school, everything. You're indoctrinated and programmed. So when you take this path, there's a lot of unprogramming that needs to be done. Okay, so I didn't self-initiate myself. It was done to me and for me. But I've done this before, and this is why it was triggered again. But you can self-initiate, and it's a lot of work. But I would suggest, if you really want to get serious about this path, work with a female deity. Now, we don't beg and grovel and pray and all that. That's incredibly disempowering. But I work with whatever archetype you want to work with. Inanna, Mary. I work with Mary because that's the name I used when I was in the other world. It came out of my mouth. And maybe because she's the latest iteration of the goddess. And so that's the name that she's using with me. But you can use the Morrigan, Kali. There's so many different cultural, Bridget. I mean, you can use any female deity that you want to work with. But for me, I work with Mary. And I have her all around me. I carry symbols of her everywhere. And especially when you need some type of healing, you can just call on her. But again, there's no groveling or begging or anything. She wants you to be empowered. Okay, she doesn't want you to be in victim consciousness. She wants you to realize who you truly are. And that is an aspect of her, an aspect of the universe, an aspect of God. And you've taken on a bunch of false belief systems and lies, and you think God is outside of yourself or the goddess or the universe, when actually you're a part of it, and it dwells within you. Okay. So I feel like we're going back to getting to that. There's a lot of us waking up to that fact. But walking the walk and all that, it's a little more difficult in the dimension that we're living in right now. But yeah, so that darkness, the womb, the void, nothingness, is actually what New Age people call source, and they think it's light, and it's not. It's complete and utter darkness, potential, nothingness, the void, in which everything is created. Okay, it's a womb. All right, so that's it for this video, and I will see you on the next one.